Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Stupid Criminals number 4. So today we're gonna start off in Oklahoma, and Sallisaw, Oklahoma, to be exact. Misty Van Horn was trying to raise money to get her boyfriend out of jail, and she needed to come up with close to $6,000 cash total as part of the 10% bond to get her boyfriend out of jail. And then she was going to try to put up her double wide mobile home, but they denied that, and she then found other collateral, a car, a truck, and the home. They were willing to take all of those as collateral for the secure of the bond to get her boyfriend out. All she needed was the $6,000. She had $2,000 to her name, and she thought the best way to raise the rest of it was, and I'm not kidding, she put an ad on Facebook offering to sell both of her children. She offered $4,000 in a package deal, both children with clothes and accessories that they may need for $4,000, or $1,000 per child. Obviously, she's not all that bright. We already know that. She offered her children up for sale, but the math doesn't fit either. $1,000, your pick of a child, or $4,000 for two children. What? She was arrested, and she has now been convicted of trying to sell her children. Next, we're going to Houston, Texas. Marsha Rose called the police to get help, getting her share of a profits from a scam that her and two other ladies had been running in an elderly community there outside of Houston and inside the actual city proper of Houston. And the scam was these young women would dress attractively, and they scouted houses where they figured that they could get the attention of the elderly male homeowner and offer to wash their car, do yard work, stuff like that. Basically, selling, a sex appeal for in the exchange for cash, and they were very successful at it. But Marcia didn't get all of her share. At least she didn't believe she got all of her share. So she called the police to ask them to help her get her $160 from the other two ladies that she believed was due owing to her. And she explained to the police just how they scammed these elderly people out of their money, and how they also, they did a little bit of panhandling from these people. They stole items from their homes. They stole items from their garages. She admitted to it all, but she wanted her $160. She was going to get her $160. So the police were more than happy to, help her, and they put a wire on her, and she confronted the other two ladies who were in on the scam with her, and they, said that, oh, you're right, we do owe you money, and they paid her the money. And the moment that they handed over the money that they, mistakenly had shorted her, and the scam, the cops came in and arrested all three of them. All three of them were arrested for larceny, theft, and ordered to pay $3,000 in restitution for $160 is what she wanted. Don't mess with your friends when you're scamming people. Next, we're going to Ohio, Bath Township. Dylan McCleary called 911 requesting police help and immediate help. When the 911 operator transferred the call over to the police, they said, "What do you need assistance with?" He said, "I need assistance, immediate assistance. I need you to bring your drug dog to my home and help me track some stolen heroin from my address and find out who stole it, and they can track it to where they went." And they said, "Excuse me? What?" Yeah, I had a bunch of heroin and cash that was stolen from my home, and I need your drug dog to get on the trail and follow it to who stole my heroin and cash. And the chief of police there said Mike McNeely informed Dylan that he would need a sample of the original type of heroin from the same batch for the dog to sniff to actually catch the trail of it, and then they would follow him. When the police showed up with the drug dog, Dylan McCleary brought out from his home, from his hiding place, excuse me, 7 ounces of black tar heroin for the dog to sniff. He was quickly arrested for the possession of the drugs. All right, now we're going to Livingston, New York. Matthew Nurture, age 36, was arrested after a foot chase that started only after an officer was coming out of a convenience store and Matthew was going in, and he said, "Good morning." And as he held the door open for him, and Matthew turned around and bolted and took off running. The police officer who was there and saw this was like, "That was odd. I should probably go find out why he took off running." So he followed him in his police car for a couple blocks, watched him run until he was tired, and then pulled over and asked him, "Why'd you take off running?" Matthew then threw up his hands, got down on his knees, and then laid his entire body out flat on the ground. The officer came up, said, "Okay," started to pat him down, and said, "Why did you take off running?" When he was patting him down, he found a handgun in his waistband in his lower back. And Matthew said that he was sure that his girlfriend had told the police what he was up to by now, and he was just going to surrender and give up. And it wasn't worth fighting, for what he was, looking for him for. Excuse me. When the officer, I was having a conversation with Matthew, he said, "Look, you're not wanted. You're not even a suspect in any crimes. I have no idea what you're talking about. When your girlfriend, you have a gun on you." And when they searched his backpack that he had on him, they found stolen mail from 7 different addresses, and turns out that's what his girlfriend was going to tell on him about, was all that stolen mail. And Matthew was going into the store to rob it, and the day that the officer saw him, and he got spooked and ran off. But the mail he had stolen the week before, and he had shown it to his girlfriend and said, "Look what I did." And she's like, "You're an idiot." And he figured that his girlfriend had told the police, and that's why the officer was holding the door open for him. So Matthew, your girlfriend didn't tell on you. She was a good girlfriend. She didn't narc you off, but you're still an idiot. All right, next one is from Miami, Florida. Douglas Kelly called the Putnam County Sheriff's Office and asked them to test his methamphetamines. He said he had purchased this methamphetamines a week earlier and had a bad reaction, and was wondering if they could test it that day. So if it was good meth, then he was going to smoke it that night. They offered to have him come into and they would meet him at a substation. Douglas went into the police department substation, and he was subsequently arrested for possession of methamphetamines. Going to Chicago, Illinois for the next one. Mario Garcia, age 39, and Domingo Garcia Hernandez, age 28, went into the Clifton Grill in West Rogers Park and demanded food and cash from the owner. When the owner said, "What?" Mario Garcia repeated to him, "I will kill you. I have a gun." The owner of the restaurant told Mario and Domingo Garcia Hernandez that they were very busy. The restaurant was booked. They didn't have an available table, and it would probably be up to an hour before they could actually get seated or get any food. Kind of trying to delay them, not thinking that they would do anything about it. The two gentlemen left, and they came back an hour later. Yeah, they came back, and when they demanded food again, and they demanded $100 cash on top of the food, the owner kind of stalled and said he would need to get his wife's checkbook so he could write a check for that $100 because he didn't have enough cash in the till to give them $100 for their complaint, for what they wanted. They wanted that $100 and they wanted free food. They actually were dumb enough to wait for him to walk away. He walked away, called 911. The police came, and they were arrested for theft and for trying to strong arm robbery. For trying to steal the money and the food and services from uh, the owner of the Clifton Grill. Yeah, not too bright. All right, next one. We're going to McAlester, Oklahoma. Peyton Seth Brewer and his accomplice broke into a home and stole cash, guns, jewelry, and the robbery. And the robbery got away pretty much successfully, except for two minor things. One, they were caught on CCTV walking up to where they broke in. And number two, they were not the brightest of individuals, but number two, they were on video the entire time, and every room and everything that they did inside the apartment was on CCTV. Now, these two gentlemen, as intellectually challenged as they are, uh, they did try to disguise their identities as much as they could, and before they ever went to to commit this robbery. And you got to give them respect there. Say, look, they were thinking ahead. That's pretty bright, and a lot of criminals don't think ahead. Not these two. These two are not your average intellectually challenged robbers. Yeah. They both disguised their faces. And I'm going to put a picture up here. Yes, they colored their faces with black Sharpie marker. This was their idea of disguising their identities. And what's the problem with Sharpie marker? Well, it's permanent. After the robbery, the police, were alerted, to the robbery, by the security company that watched all this happen and unfold on CCTV. They gave them the plate number, description of the two individuals, what they were wearing, and that they were wearing. They had black marker all over their faces, and they were pulled over a short time later, and arrested for their crime. Next is Demetrius Robinson, age 28. Wanted to rob a Golden Pantry restaurant. He had been casing the place for about a month prior and trying to figure out when the clerks and those employees who were in the store were the most vulnerable to be robbed. Well, on this one day, he determined he was going to do it on a Thursday evening. He was going to do it at about 7 o'clock. But when he showed up the next week on Thursday at 7 o'clock, there was still about 20-25 people in the restaurant. So he paced around outside for a while and then went inside to check to see if the place had cleared out. And there was probably about 3 employees in the restaurant at the time, and there were about 2 or 3 customers. To waste more time, he asked for a job application to pass the time. And he filled out the job application when the last 2 customers left and the employees were, he figured, at their most vulnerable. He stood up with a handgun and robbed the place, leaving the application sitting in the booth on the table where he had been sitting. And he filled out the application truthfully. He put his full legal name down, his address, his previous employment, and for the phone number for the contact for the application, he wrote down his uncle's phone number. He was quickly arrested and pled guilty to the robbery. Next one is Bart Keene placed an ad on Craigslist to sell a 2009 BMW sports car, an M3. He was asking $11,500 in cash only, underlined and highlighted on the actual ad. Blue Book value for this car was $48,200. So that's a heck of a steal. When a prospective buyer had shown up to look at the car, Bart had told the prospective buyer that he lost a key, but was more than willing to show him how to hotwire the car so he could take it for a test drive. Being as helpful as he was, Bart got into the passenger seat. The prospective buyer, who was going to buy it for $11,500 in cash, got into the driver's seat. They backed out of the area where the car was at, and the prospective buyer proceeded to drive the car to the police department parking lot, pulled in, and Bart still had no idea where they were. He said, "All right, I think we have a deal here. 11,500." And he said, "Yeah, are you really firm on that price?" They went back and forth. Bart was willing to drop the price down to a cool $10,000 in cash. Nice little discount off of the 11,000. Remember, it's already $37,000 under a Blue Book value. And then the prospective buyer got out to look at the car on the outside. Bart got out, and the prospective buyer walked up around behind Bart and threw the cuffs on him and arrested him. He was an undercover police officer there, and the car that Bart was trying to sell was his. The car had been stolen from him a week prior. Bart didn't know who he stole the car from, didn't know it was a police officer's car, and certainly didn't know what the police officer, if he would have known that, what the guy would have looked like. Bart was trying to sell the man his own stolen car. Bart was arrested. This is Bart's 6th felony conviction, and the judge in this case threw the book at Bart. Bart did not like what he heard that day. And Bart ended up getting a cool 15 years for the Grand Theft Auto, and everything else that I guess he had another warrant on top of that. But Bart will see you everybody in 15 years. So, what did we learn today from today's stupid criminals? Well, number one, you should stay in school. Number two, if you're going to sell something, don't sell it to the police. And the third thing that we learned is don't call the cops if you think you got bad drugs. They're illegal for a reason, and they're just going to lock you up. And that means if you have your heroin stolen or if you think you got bad meth, don't call the cops. All you're going to do is go to jail. All right, thanks for watching, everybody, and you stay safe out there.